We couldn't manage new clothes for your kids this year, my mother said, chin lifted as if she were offering charity. My dad chuckled softly, tapping his teaspoon against a chipped saucer. Times are tough, he added, as though the struggle was written on my face, not in the glow of my brother's children. Brand new iPads, designer shoes, tags still hanging like little flags of triumph. Silence wrapped around me, but it wasn't protective. It was the kind that slowly strips you bare while everyone pretends not to see. I smiled anyway. Smiling is cheaper than bleeding in front of people who clap at the sight of it. Hi, my name is Sophia Hale, and I don't cry where anyone can see. I inhale, fold the hurt, once, twice, like a worn winter scarf, and tuck it somewhere safe until I can turn it into something useful. I watched my niece swipe through apps with the indifferent grace of royalty. My nephew balanced his shoe on a chair leg, showing off the shiny emblem to his friends. Mom handed me a plate like she was serving both food and a moral lesson. You understand, right? Your brother's kids have needs. Dad nodded, a chorus of agreement humming around the table. Needs, as if my daughter's toes pressing into last year's sneakers were never a need. As if the cold seeping through our thin windows was optional. Of course, I said, keeping my voice steady. I grabbed our coats from the rack. My daughter's coat was fraying at the wrists. My son's zipper had been stuck halfway since the playground incident. The fabric smelled faintly of laundry detergent and bus exhaust. I kissed Mom on the cheek, for the tea we brought ourselves, and led my children into the December air. Laughter cracked behind me like breaking glass. On the bus, the city looked like a gray bowl holding our small, careful hopes. My daughter leaned against my shoulder. My son traced a foggy circle on the window and drew a smiley face inside it. I counted the creases in my palm, thinking about the stories families tell to survive their own reflection. At home, I heated the last bit of milk for Coco, tucked the kids into quilts that had seen better winters, and opened my laptop. The cursor blinked like a heartbeat. I typed erased, typed again. Every word felt like pulling a tooth. I didn't want rage. I wanted clarity sharp enough to cut without spilling. Morning came pale and thin. I reread what I'd written. Truth folded into calm sentences. Photos attached with gentle explanation. Receipts like quiet math. Then I hit post. Within minutes, my phone buzzed. Unknown numbers, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years, my aunt who never calls before noon. The family group chat flared like a siren. And somewhere between the second and third call, I realized this wasn't a fire I was lighting. It was a mirror I had finally turned toward the light. The calls came first, like harmless raindrops, then grew into a storm. By 9 a.m., my phone throbbed in my hand like a fever. Aunt Farah demanded, "What is this nonsense you posted? Delete it before your father sees." I nearly laughed. He'd already seen. Half the family had by then. The post wasn't angry. It wasn't dripping with blame. It was colder, cleaner. I'd written, "Last night, my children were told there was no money for them. This morning, we saw brand new iPads and designer shoes for others. I just want clarity. Are times hard for everyone or only for us?" 3 photographs accompanied it. The receipt for the shoes my brother's kids flaunted, the iPad box with their initials on the warranty card, and my son's worn sneaker, its sole curled outward like a silent plea. I didn't tag anyone. Family recognizes its own shadow. Comments poured in from cousins abroad, second cousins I barely knew, even old family friends. "Wait, didn't they just renovate their house?" one asked. "Your brother's wife posted Maldives pictures last week." This isn't fair. Each comment wasn't mine, yet it fell into place like ammunition. By 10 a.m., Mom called. Her voice was tight, controlled, but cracked beneath the surface. "Take it down, Sophia. You're making us look bad. What will people say?" I stared at the screen, my reflection faintly mirrored. Calmly, I replied, "Maybe they'll say what you told me last night. Times are hard." Silence, heavy, metallic. Then Dad's voice thundered behind her, ungrateful, disrespectful. The line cut. My children watched wide-eyed, sensing the tremor even if they didn't understand it. I brushed my daughter's hair from her forehead and smiled gently. "Don't worry, love. Sometimes the truth is loud before it grows quiet. And in that moment, with my phone vibrating nonstop, I realized something. I hadn't just hit a nerve. I'd opened a wound they'd spent years covering with silk. Now it bled for everyone to see. By noon, the family chat looked like a battlefield. Messages flew, each sharper than the last. Uncle Rashi typed, "Sophia, why air private matters online? Families handle things behind closed doors." My cousin Syra shot back, "Behind closed doors is exactly how they've hidden favoritism for years." Another cousin added, "I always wondered why you never got the same support. Now we know." Every ping felt like bricks falling from a wall I hadn't built but lived behind my whole life. The narrative was no longer theirs to control. It was in the light. Mom tried again with guilt, sending a voice note heavy with practiced sadness. "You know we love you. Why are you making enemies?" But my children's laughter from the next room drowned her out. Paper airplanes flew. No iPads, no polished sneakers, just folded sheets of math homework soaring across the living room. "They're fragile." Real joy hit me like a contrast to the chat chaos. I typed back, "If love means lying to my children while others are spoiled like royalty, maybe I've misunderstood the word." Sent. Phone face down. Silence fell, not empty, but charged. A silence that says, "We don't know what to do with the truth now that it's free." By evening, more relatives called. A cousin whispered, "Sophia, I always knew your side got less, but I was afraid to speak." Another said, "Stay strong. You're saying what many of us can't." I realized then I wasn't alone. I was the first to voice what everyone had felt. That night, my children asked if we could bake cookies. Flour dusted their hair. Sugar stuck to their fingers. Vanilla filled the kitchen. For the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't begging for scraps of love. I was taking it back, one truth at a time. The next morning, the backlash came in person. A sharp knock rattled the door. My brother stood there, jaw clenched, eyes blazing, his wife behind him, arms crossed like a stage audience. "You've embarrassed us," he spat quietly but furiously. "Do you know what you've done?" I leaned calmly against the door frame. I told the truth. That wasn't truth. That was betrayal. His finger jabbed at me, shaking with rage. "You made us look like liars. Now everyone is whispering behind our backs." I almost laughed at the irony. "Behind your backs? That's rich. For years, I've been the one whispered about. A sister struggling to stay afloat. A single mother barely keeping her children warm. And there you were, parading yourself like the golden sun." His wife finally spoke, her voice sharp, laced with disdain. "You could have asked for help instead of playing the victim online." I glanced at her designer coat, the shine of a new bracelet sliding down her wrist. "Asked? I did ask. I begged. And you all said times were hard. Somehow, though, your hard times never reached your doorstep." My brother's face turned a deep shade of crimson. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. The silence thickened, suffocating the room. From the living room, my son's voice drifted in. "Mom, is everything okay?" I smiled gently, keeping my eyes on my brother. "Yes, sweetheart. Everything's fine." Then, quietly to him, "This ends now. No more pretending. No more lies. If you feel embarrassed, it's not because of me. It's because the truth finally showed up." He stepped back, fists tight at his sides, yet he stayed silent. His wife tugged at his arm, murmuring, "Let's go." When the door clicked shut, I pressed my palm against it, my heartbeat steady, unshaken. For the first time in years, I wasn't shrinking under their shadow. I realized something in that moment. Revenge doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it breathes quietly until the silence becomes unbearable for everyone else. By the third day, the silence from my parents was louder than their anger. No calls, no messages, just absence, thick, deliberate. But absence doesn't stop gossip. It only feeds it. Relatives reached out, their voices a mix of curiosity and outrage. One cousin whispered, "Your mom's furious. She says you've shamed the family name." Another admitted, "But honestly, we've all seen the favoritism. You just said it out loud." The strangest part? I wasn't afraid anymore. For years of tiptoeing around their approval, begging for crumbs of validation, were gone. I had nothing left to lose. That morning, I opened my laptop again. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. The first post had been sharp, precise, a cut. But now I wanted to reveal the wound beneath. I uploaded 2 photographs. One, my daughter holding her school report card, straight A's, pride shining in her tired eyes. 2, my son's worn sneakers, soles peeling, held together by duct tape. I typed, "My children are thriving despite being given less than others at the same table. They deserve more than excuses. They deserve honesty." I hit post and leaned back. Within minutes, reactions poured in. Friends outside the family commented, "Strength, proud of you, truth matters." Strangers reshared, saying, "This is why silence in families can be poison." By noon, the family chat erupted. My aunt tried to downplay it. Sophia exaggerates. It wasn't like that. Then, unexpectedly, an ally appeared. My older cousin, usually quiet, wrote, "Don't lie." I was there last. I saw her kids left with scraps while others got piles of gifts. Stop pretending. That single message changed everything. Suddenly, my parents weren't just facing me. They were facing a chorus. And when my phone buzzed again, this time it wasn't with anger. It was my father. "We need to talk." The same man who once told me I was ungrateful now sounded cornered. And for the first time, I felt the balance shift. The power they had held for decades was quietly slipping into my hands. The meeting was set for Sunday afternoon at my parents' house, the same house where I had grown up, where love always came wrapped in conditions. I almost didn't go, but something in my father's text drew me. Not guilt, not hope, curiosity. Walking in, the air was thick with unspoken tension. My mother sat on the sofa, arms folded, lips pressed thin. My father leaned on his cane, jaw tight, eyes restless. My brother scrolled on his phone in the corner like a bored child. His wife sat beside him, gaze sharp, ready for battle. Dad began, clearing his throat. "This has gone too far." I stayed standing. My children were home, safe with a neighbor. "Too far," I repeated calmly. "Or too true." Mom's eyes flashed. "You think humiliating us in front of the family is truth? You've painted us as villains." I didn't flinch. I didn't paint anything. I just held up a mirror. "You don't like the reflection. That's not my fault." My brother scoffed. "Always the victim." That word ignited something in me. I turned to him, voice steady. "Do you know what being a victim really looks like? Watching your children walk to school in shoes barely holding together while your nieces unwrap iPads at the same table. That's victimhood. And you watched it year after year without blinking." The room fell silent. My father's hand trembled on his cane. Mom looked away, blinking fast, fighting tears or anger. I softened my voice, just enough to cut deeper. "I didn't come here to beg. I came to make you understand. I'm done hiding your choices. If you feel exposed, it's because the mask finally slipped." For once, no one interrupted me. No raised voices, no thunder, just silence. And in that silence, I realized they weren't used to me standing this tall. And they didn't even know I hadn't yet played my final card. That night, after leaving their house, I sat by the window with the city lights trembling outside. My phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from relatives who had seen the cracks. Some furious, some supportive, but one thing was clear. The story had escaped their walls. It couldn't be hidden anymore. I opened my laptop again, this time posting receipts, bank transfers showing years of allowances to my brother's family, each transaction neat and deliberate. Screenshots of my request for small help, bus fare, winter coats. Silence, or excuses, times are tight. No rage in the captions, just facts. Calm, measured, undeniable. For years, I believed silence kept the family together. But silence only protected the wrong people. My children deserved to know I fought for them. The post spread like wildfire. Even outsiders shared it, tagging justice, truth, favoritism. My brother's polished image of the responsible son began to crumble. Old friends commented, "Didn't you just buy a new car?" Interesting how hard times never stopped your vacations. By morning, the calls weren't just from relatives, they were from my brother. His once mocking voice was raw. "Safia, take it down, please. People at work are asking." My boss is questioning. I closed my eyes, letting his words settle. Years of begging to be seen by him, by my children, had finally flipped. You wanted me invisible, I said quietly. Now the truth makes you visible. That's not my burden. I hung up. My children slept peacefully, soft breaths filling the room. I touched the peeling wallpaper by the window, smiling faintly. This wasn't just revenge, it was rewriting our story. By the week's end, the storm had shifted. Whispers once circling me now spun toward my parents and brother. Exposure had arrived, not with screams, but with undeniable evidence. My mother appeared at my door first. Her eyes, usually hard, were softer, threaded with shame. She carried a paper bag with sweaters, too small, clearly rushed. For the kids, she murmured. I didn't comfort her. Keep them, I said gently. My children don't need pity. They need fairness. Later, my father called, his voice weaker than ever. Safia, people are talking. Your uncle won't let it go. Your aunt is furious. Your brother is suffering. I let silence stretch until his breathing faltered. Then I said, for years, Dad, we suffered. No one cared. Now you feel the sting of truth, and suddenly it's unbearable. That's not suffering. That's accountability. He didn't argue. Just a long, heavy sigh before hanging up. That night, tucking my children in, my daughter asked, Mom, why is everyone calling so much? I stroked her hair, kissed her forehead, and whispered, because sometimes telling the truth is louder than any secret. And when you tell it, the world has to listen. She smiled sleepily, holding my hand until her breath deepened. I returned to my laptop, opened the family chat one last time, and wrote, This isn't about money. It's about dignity. My children will grow up knowing their worth does not shrink to fit someone else's comfort. From today on, I will never let silence starve us again. Then I left the chat. Notifications buzzed endlessly, but I didn't look. I sat quietly, sipping tea, watching dawn stretch across the horizon. For the first time, the weight on my chest was gone. Revenge hadn't come with fire or rage. It had arrived with truth.